Oh, that's nice. Oh, hi there. This is David Day here again from D-Day Photographic Art. Before we get started with today's video, I'd like to take just a moment to thank you for watching my past videos. The response was absolutely overwhelming, and I really do appreciate the support the ICM community has given me. There have been a lot of changes here in the past year, and I've tried out a lot of new techniques and processes to create my abstract ICM images. In today's video, though, we're going to talk about how to incorporate a variety of different glass elements for unusual effects into our abstract scenes. And I'm going to give you a little bit of information on some lights that I'm using now. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about ICM techniques or a discussion on post-processing of ICM because we've covered that in previous videos. Also, if you really want to get into it in a workshop type environment, I would encourage you to visit Stephanie Johnson's website, and I'll give you the URL to that website in a minute. She conducts a number of workshops that are very, very good at covering a lot of different aspects of intentional camera movement photography. Let's talk first about some of the lights I've been experimenting with since I produced my last video. These lights right here are pretty interesting lights. They're LED bar lights that have these plastic diffusers on front of them. And I originally thought that they were going to work out pretty well. They've got a lot of modes. You can turn the intensity up and down on them, and very, very quickly you see you can change the modes so that they change colors as you go along. But the problem with these was that whenever I put them into the scenes and the application, they were always linear, and they're about 18 inches long, but they were always linear, and whenever I would do a rotation of the camera against it or movement up and down, I always ended up with a linear image or ghosting of the images. So even though this is a nice, well-built light, it wasn't very expensive, I'm not using it because of the linearity problem. The second light that I'm using now that I really, really like is this light that's called On Air. It mounts on a tripod, and it's used for people who are doing videos on places like Facebook and TikTok. And it's got a control with it that allows you to go to different temperatures. I just turned it off. Different temperatures, different intensities, and so on and so forth, and then different colors and different modes like the linear lights. And I can then place that in different scenes, and I can create all sorts of really unusual effects with the lights. One of the things that I really like to do with this light is take a plastic bag and stuff it into or through the light, and you will see what it does here is it will create these effects that tend to flare out whenever you're doing an ICM image. So the light has a lot of applications, and with the mini tripod that comes with it, you can mount it at any angle to get a variety of lighting effects. You can also use it to front light different elements in your scene if you want to front light them as well. So that's a light that I really like, that I really suggest you take a look at. The third light is the light that I've been talking about on Facebook recently, and that is called the Govee Glide. You can see I have a couple of them lit up right here right now, and you may be able to see them over here. I've got them spread throughout the base of my studio here, and I can turn these on or off, change the colors, change the intensities, change the temperatures at will via an application that goes on my cell phone. So it's really pretty handy, and I can highlight different areas. If something is too hot, I can tone it down very, very easily, and it gives me a lot of control over the scene. So the Govee Glides are something that I really recommend if you're going to do something like this. Now, when I set a scene up, before we get into the discussion of the glass elements, one of the things that I do is I've got a white sheet like this to a little bit further diffuse the light, and then I've got a couple of these translucent gray plastic bags that I'll put in here to further diffuse the light. And I've also got a couple of LEDs under here that I can turn on or off. I don't know if you can see that or not, to add a third lighting opportunity in here. And the LED lights are very, very inexpensive. A lot of different manufacturers of these. They come in a lot of different lengths. And then I will continue with the plastic bags until I get the scene to where I want it to be. And we'll continue with this, maybe cover a little bit of it over here. And once I get it somewhere where I think it's appropriate, I will then go in and I will shoot a couple of test shots. And if I get something that's too hot, I might tone that down a little bit or cover it up a little bit. And I'll continue to make incremental changes like that until I finally get to what I'm looking for in the viewfinder of the camera. Before we get into talking about the glass and how I incorporate glass elements into these scenes, I thought I'd take a few minutes and show you how I set a scene up. Here I've got my basic Govee lights, and I've also got a set of LED lights down in here that I can turn on or off, and there I've turned them on. And then I've got my app here that allows me to control each one of these individual 10 Govee lights. So let's say that I wanted to turn them all yellow. So I would highlight each of the individual glide lights that I wanted, then select yellow, and you can see it turns them all yellow. Now from here I can do a number of different things as I set up this scene. Maybe there are a couple of lights that I don't want involved in this scene, so I will select just those couple of lights that I want or don't want, and I will go down here and turn them off. And that changes the scene very, very quickly. If I've got a light over here that is too bright, I can select that light, unselect the rest of them, or those lights, and then I've got this little slider bar here that says relative brightness, and you can see I can turn it up or down that way. I also have the ability in here to go into a color wheel so that once I get the lights on that I want, I can go into the color wheel and I can adjust those lights to be whatever I want them to be in the color wheel in terms of both intensity and color. So that's a very handy feature as well. Now once I get this where I want it to be, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this white plastic sheet over it. And as you can see, that tends to diffuse things out a little bit more. From there, I'm going to overlay this with a number of these translucent gray and green-gray plastic bags that I've torn apart, and begin to create a scene that's got highlight areas, it's got shadow areas, and through the crinkles in the bag creates a lot of texture that I can use in my photographs. And from here what I'll do is once I get this done, I can take the camera and once again I can start to do some ICM on there, and I can make incremental changes both in the lighting intensity and color and in the plastic bags to get them where I want it to be in the scene. Now for the fun part, let's get into the glass part of this. Here I have it looks like a 4 or 6 inch glass sphere. And what I like about these are they tend to transmit a reverse image of whatever it's seeing down here, depending on where you put it in the scene, into different parts of the glass image. So with this, it's possible to add something in that really changes the lighting situation as you move around it, that can then be used to help create the scene that you want to create. Now, last but not least, I'm going to take this on-air light. Let me see if I can find where to turn it on. There we go. And I'm going to place that right over this piece of glass. Get yet another piece of plastic. Put it through there. And you can see what this is doing now. It's creating some diffusion in this whole scene. And sometimes I'll get a nice ripple effect off of the glass from the backlighting. And then take a couple of test shots and move from there. So that gives me a real nice opportunity to create some very interesting, unusual images and shapes in my photographs that have both diffused light and sharp areas of light as a consequence of changing the way all of these elements are interacting. Now you may have seen a couple of photographs, and I'll show you one here in a minute, where it looks like there are streams of repeating arcs going up through them. And that is a consequence of taking the camera and jerking it very rapidly as I move down across that scene. Now right now I'm getting the entire globe in there, but it is possible through adjusting this lighting to get just the tip of the globe in here, which creates a very, very interesting and unusual effect. So now that you've got a bit of a general idea about some of the things that can be done with glass, let's talk about the different types of glass I've been using and some of the things that have worked very, very well. One of the things or pieces of glass that I really like is this glass vase here. And what I will do with the glass vase is I'll put it in there, and I hope you can see that it will start to create different areas of refraction of that light on the glass, so that when I get into a situation where I've got the light just right, I'll start to get these concentric rings of color as a consequence of using the glass, followed by dark areas on the rim of the glass. I can then take that, and if I've got a very much backlit area, start to stuff that piece with different pieces of tissue and different pieces of plastic and create a whole different look that way. So the glass vase is very, very good. And I've got at this point in time about $3 invested in glass that I picked up at Goodwill and various junk stores. Now this piece I didn't know if it was going to work or not. It's a frosted piece, and it gives some really, really unusual effects if you catch the light just right on it. So don't just think you have to go for clear glass. Take a look at the frosted glass as well. One of the things too that I really, really like and encourage you to experiment with if you're going to get into this, and I can't get that to seem to stay right now, is just a window pane. Or this came out of a frame that I had accidentally broken, and somehow the glass survived. I don't know how that happened, but in a darkened area you can do something like this, and you start to get a mirror image that you can photograph against, and that creates some really unusual opportunities whenever you're doing ICM. So I highly encourage you to get a piece of flat glass to experiment with. Another glass that's turned out to be very popular is this Pyrex bowl here. And the Pyrex bowls are kind of neat because I don't know if you can see that or not. It creates a very, very wide effect on the rim of that glass, so that I end up getting a Saturn ring type effect that repeats itself whenever I do that. And then I can start incorporating pieces of glass on top of one another. This is one of my favorites right here. It's simply a little glass jar. I don't know if you can see that or not, but just holding it right up there, it is reflecting all around these edges, and because of the way the teeth are set in this piece of glass, it reflects it in a repeating type, but not quite repeating manner, that when you rotate around can create some very, very unusual effects. I'll then put the pieces of glass down into one another to create different effects and so on and so forth. Regular everyday bottle that I found at Goodwill. And just build it up like that, and then maybe just start experimenting with putting a piece of plastic over part of it so that you get a partial image, and so on and so forth, and incrementally make changes in your photograph and your positioning until you get what you want, and then just shoot away, and you'll get some very, very beautiful and interesting photographs as a consequence. One more thing that I almost failed to mention when we were talking about lighting is think of lighting from different sources. I've been talking mostly about backlighting this plastic bags, a little bit of tissue paper and the glass and so on and so forth. But at some point in time, try combining that with front lighting, and I've got a little lamp here that I can turn on. And you'll notice when I turn on, it creates a lot of highlight areas and shadow areas in the plastic bag. That combined with the backlighting can create some really interesting effects. And I've got a couple of photographs that look just like they were ICM trees as a consequence of doing the combination of lighting. So it's important to experiment with different types of combination of both backlighting, front lighting, and side lighting to get the most that you can out of the scenes that you're creating and making ICM images out of. Well, that's about it for right now. I'm not going to go into post-processing or a lot about ICM techniques because we covered that in earlier videos, and as I said also, you can go to Stephanie Johnson's website to review that and maybe participate in one of her workshops. So I hope you got something out of this today. I certainly enjoyed bringing it to you, and I hope it helps you with your ICM photography adventures. Thanks again, everybody. Bye now.